Entropy and Earth, from disorder to the 5D transition. 1. Introduction. A question of awakening. Can you feel it? Something in the world is shifting. Conflicts are appearing in many regions. Economic systems are unstable. Social trust is weakening. People are more connected than ever, yet more distant from each other than before. Structures that once seemed stable now feel fragile. These are no longer isolated events. They resemble the behavior of a system losing equilibrium. And so the questions begin to arise. Where are we heading? Is this the sign of an ending? But what if this perspective is incomplete? What if what we are witnessing is not collapse, but a natural process? A law that existed long before humanity itself. Entropy. 2. Entropy. The law of irreversible change. In physics, entropy measures how energy spreads within a system. The second law of thermodynamics states, in a closed system, total entropy tends to increase over time. This does not mean everything instantly becomes chaotic. It means that no system can remain ordered forever without continuously receiving energy to maintain its structure. A glass falls to the ground and shatters. The fragments do not spontaneously reassemble, not because reconstruction is unimaginable, but because the broken state is statistically far more probable than the intact one. This is the deeper meaning of entropy. Physical systems evolve toward states that are more probable, and because of this, time itself has a direction, from states of lower energy dispersion to states of higher energy dispersion. Entropy forms the physical foundation of the arrow of time. 3. Phase transition. When a system can no longer maintain its previous state, entropy does not only lead to decay. In many cases, it leads to the emergence of a new structure. This process is called a phase transition. When water receives thermal energy, the motion of its molecules increases. At lower temperatures, intermolecular bonds maintain the liquid state. But once energy reaches a critical threshold, these bonds can no longer stabilize the structure. The system transitions into vapor. This is not a gradual modification. It is a structural jump. The substance remains water, but the organization of its molecules changes completely. Most importantly, the new state has higher entropy than the previous one. This reveals a profound principle of nature. When a system receives sufficient energy, it may reorganize itself into an entirely different structure to reach a new equilibrium. 4. Earth as a system with increasing entropy. If we observe Earth as a complex system, we begin to recognize familiar signatures of entropy. Political structures are increasingly polarized. Economic systems depend on unsustainable debt expansion. Environmental responses to climate imbalance are intensifying. But the deeper level lies within human consciousness. Information overload weakens discernment. Connection networks expand, yet relational depth decreases. Isolation increases within densely populated societies. This is not merely a social condition. It is the expression of entropy within a collective field of consciousness. The system as a whole appears to be approaching a critical threshold. 5. The critical point. The threshold of irreversibility. In complex physical systems, there exists a boundary known as the critical point. Before reaching this threshold, the system may fluctuate while maintaining its structure. Beyond it, the structure can no longer stabilize itself. Even a small change can produce a total transformation. The transition does not occur because the system chooses change. It occurs because the system can no longer sustain its previous state. If we apply this principle to Earth as a combined system of environment, economy, society, and human consciousness, then present global instability may be understood as accumulated tension within the system. Once the threshold is crossed, the system does not return to its previous configuration. It shifts into a new mode of operation. 6. The shift, where science and spiritual insight meet. Interestingly, the idea of a global transition does not appear only in modern science. Ancient civilizations also described a similar transformation. The Hopi spoke of the fifth world. Mystical traditions described what they called the shift. Some spiritual systems referred to it as ascension. In the Bible, there is a passage that reads, "In the twinkling of an eye, we shall be changed." Although expressed in different symbolic languages, they all point toward the same possibility: a rapid, comprehensive, and irreversible transformation of the state of existence. This suggests that the evolution of consciousness itself may follow transition dynamics similar to those observed in physical systems. 7. Choice within the transition process. If this transformation is real, then the essential question is not when it will occur. The essential question is where you stand within the system. Every phase transition involves differentiation. Not every component transforms at the same moment. This means the transformation is not only external, it is directly connected to how each individual interacts with reality itself. No authority decides this for you. Not governments, not religions, not external forces. Only your way of being determines your position within the transition. Entropy pushes systems toward their limits. But what emerges beyond that limit depends on the internal structure of the system itself. And perhaps what is unfolding now is not the end of the world, but the end of a previous way of existing.